If you're thinking about living in the West Palm Beach area, in this video, I'm going to tell you about my 6 favorite beach towns that you could live in right now. And they each have their own personality. So some might be perfect for you and some not so much. And at the end, I'm going to tell you about a bonus beach town that has been pretty underrated and is starting to be discovered. So stand by. Okay, so first I'm going to share this map with you just to give you some context. We're going to start, we were talking about West Palm Beach, and you can see it here on the map in the lower section. And then it says Lake Worth Beach below. And those would be the 2 beaches that, as I said, if you were living in West Palm, you would probably use those. But if you're thinking about wanting to really live in a beach town where you can walk out the door and walk down to the beach and, have all the amenities of a beach town, I'm going to tell you about 6 of them. So to start, we're going to start here. This barrier island along West Palm Beach is Palm Beach and the town of Palm Beach. And then there's the Lake Worth Inlet. And then the next island, the next barrier island is Singer Island. So we're going to talk about 2 beach towns on Singer Island. And then we're going to head north and we're going to end up on Jupiter Island at Jupiter Inlet Colony. So about 7 miles north of West Palm, you take the Blue Heron Bridge over onto Singer Island, which is the next barrier island north of Palm Beach. And at the very south end of Singer Island is a little town which calls itself the best little town in Florida. And I can honestly say that it is because I lived there for almost 20 years. And it's kind of like a really best kept secret because a lot of people know about Singer Island, but they aren't aware that that Palm Beach Shores even exists. So Palm Beach Shores has about 1.5 miles of ocean front, a half a mile along the inlet, and another couple of miles on the intracoastal. And we're going to start here at the Sailfish Marina, which is kind of well known for those that live in the area, but it's a long-standing marina, restaurant, ship store, and it has the sport fishing fleet is there. And as you can see from the map, you're just blocks on land, you're just blocks from the inlet. So the water that comes in is that beautiful blue water from the ocean. And we have some of the top sport fishing boats there. And it's just a beautiful place to hang out at the Tiki Bar. Come on Thursday nights, they have an art fair and parties and music. So for the locals, most people know the Palm Beach Shores for the Sailfish Marina, which sits right along the intracoastal. It's been there forever. And it looks out on Peanut Island, which is a recreational island that came from when they filled in from the inlet years ago. But it's like the party place on the weekends. And there's camping there and wonderful trails. And so sitting at the Sailfish Marina at sunset Thursday nights, they have all kinds of events there. There's a ship store. And most of the charter fleet is there, as well as a lot of really beautiful sport fishing boats and yachts. So it's a real draw, and it's really the anchor of the town of Palm Beach Shores. And it really is a little town. We have our own, it has its own mayor and a town hall. And the town is 7 blocks long and 3 blocks wide. So anywhere you live in Palm Beach Shores, whether you're living along the intracoastal in a low-rise condo or one of the beautiful single-family homes that are on the intracoastal, or living within the community in one of those 7 streets where there are a lot of smaller single-family homes, and the homes can range from, you can get a house that hasn't been renovated for probably in the 9s, and then they can run up into the millions depending upon how new they are and what's been done. But the bottom line is, if you're living on any one of those 7 streets, you are basically at a max 3 blocks to the inlet and at a max 3 blocks to the beach. At the end of each street, there's a walkway that goes to the beach. And there is a Marriott resort that has, I think there's like 4 or 5 buildings that are 6 stories tall, and they're timeshare for Marriott. So they get a really family-oriented crowd that comes there, and that kind of adds to the feel of the town. So it's such a small town, but it actually has some commercial business there. So it's not honky-tonk at all. But it's a very peaceful, fun place to live. And then right down the middle of the town is they call it the Inlet Parkway. And it's basically, a lot of people are attracted to this too, because it's a beautiful place for walks. You can walk down the parkway and it's all greenery and greenscape. And then you end up at the south end of the island, at the inlet. And then in Palm Beach Shores, you're still in Palm Beach Shores, and along the inlet, there's a walkway that runs a half a mile from the Intracoastal to the ocean. So you really can make a complete loop. You can start at the Sailfish Marina, you can walk down the walkway to the inlet, and then you can walk all the way down the inlet to the beach and have a beach walk if you want to. So there's a pump house that it's kind of what it's known for. There's good surfing at the beach there, and the town even has a community center that's right on the ocean. So it really is a special little place. Not a lot of people know about it, and it's a beautiful place to live. Okay, so before we continue, I just want to tell you I'm Diane Wimbrow. I'm a local realtor here in Palm Beach County, and I get calls and texts all the time from people who are interested in living in Palm Beach County, but they just don't know where to start. And as a lifelong South Floridian, I've lived from Miami to Jacksonville, and Palm Beach County is my home. I love to talk to people and help people figure out what the right community for them is. So if you'd like to call or text or shoot me a WhatsApp, I would love to talk to you. We can schedule a Zoom call. And in the meantime, if you hit the subscribe button below and tap the like button, you'll get notified every time we have new videos. So we'll continue. So the other side of Singer Island, this is kind of like my second beach town, because it really does have a different personality than living in Palm Beach Shores, is the rest of Singer Island, which actually is part of the Riviera Beach municipality. And basically this part of Singer Island, it's the anchor for it is the Ocean Mall, which is right along the ocean. And it was recently renovated, and then it's actually got plans to have even more redevelopment happening there. So it's very exciting to see what's going to be going on there. But you have the Ocean Mall, it looks out over the beach, and there's restaurants and things there. And then on the weekends, there's competitive volleyball. As you walk toward the beach, there's a big sandy area where they play volleyball. And then it has just an absolutely beautiful beach, very wide. And you can walk to the north for probably, 2 or 3 miles. And then you can also walk from there down to the inlet in Palm Beach Shores. So Singer Island is made up of primarily on the ocean front condominiums. There's probably, I would say there's at least a dozen condominiums, and the tall condominiums. And then of all ages, there's been several that were recently built. And then there's some that have been there for 20 or 30 years. And then mixed into that are a couple of hotels. Some are newer, some are older, but most have been or are being renovated. So north of the Ocean Mall are those condominiums. And then kind of in the middle of all that, along the beach, is another park that's called Ocean Reef Park. And that's another public park, but it's beautiful. It's preserved in its as much of its natural state as it could be. And that is a beautiful beach. And then to the west of A1A, the A1A runs along all those condos. To the west are several neighborhoods of single family homes and a couple of low-rise condos. One, for instance, is Sugar Sands, which looks out on the Intracoastal. It's a low-rise condo, 2- and 3-story buildings. And from there, you just are a quick walk across A1A down the path and you're at the beach. And then north of Sugar Sands are probably 7 or 8, probably more than that, probably about a dozen streets with about 7 or 8 canals that run from the Intracoastal. So the good news for living on Singer Island is if you live in Palm Beach Shores and you have a large boat, then you're going to have to keep it at one of the marinas, like the Sailfish Marina. If you have a house on Singer Island in this other area, then you can also have a house with your boat in your backyard. And the really great thing about it is the water is so beautiful because the inlet is so close. There's no fixed bridges, so you don't have any limitations on the size of your boat. And that beautiful blue water just comes down in those canals even. It is just so beautiful. And the Intracoastal is very wide there. So these are 2 beach towns that you could choose and still be 20 minutes from downtown and 20 minutes from Palm Beach and more of a beachy environment. Next, I'm going to talk about North Palm Beach. And you can see here on the map that it isn't necessarily right on the beach. some of the unique characteristics of it. And I have another video where I go into in depth more about living in North Palm Beach, because it has a lot of really wonderful things about living there. But since I'm talking about beach towns, the only state park that's in Palm Beach County is John D. MacArthur Beach State Park. And that is at the end of the condos on Singer Island. You come to this causeway that goes over the natural lagoon. And for probably like a mile and a half or 2 miles of just nature on both sides of A1A. And you turn off that road into John D. MacArthur Park, and it's like stepping back in time. It's so beautiful. It has all of the natural lagoons. It has one of the #1 rated in Florida education systems for children there at the park. They do like hands-on type of nature education. It has an amphitheater where they have music. They have turtle exhibitions. There's kayaks that you can rent right there and take them out into the lagoon on both sides of A1A. And then there's this extensive boardwalk that runs over the lagoon from the entrance to John D. MacArthur and out to the beach. And it is just so beautiful. It's like it is totally the natural state. We just feel so blessed that John MacArthur left this to us. And the town of North Palm Beach is really proud to have this be within its borders. And then also, just for fun, there's this, I bring my nephew here all the time. There's a great playground, but nobody ever goes there. So it's like you have it all to yourself. And really, as a park, on the weekends, it gets a lot of activity, but during the week, it is so peaceful and beautiful. And I spend a lot of time there with the young people in my life, and they love it. And so A1A just runs right through there. And after you pass John D. MacArthur State Park, you're continuing on A1A as you head toward US 1, and A1A turns into PGA Boulevard at US 1, and you'll pass the Lost Tree Village, which is its own separate community. It's a private community, but it's full of just beautiful homes and a private club, and that is on the ocean. And as you head further, there are developments on either side of A1A with single family homes and a mix of low-rise condos, and till you get to US 1. So North Palm in general, another reason why I included it is because it's unique in that it has an extensive canal system throughout the neighborhoods of North Palm, which means that you can actually have a home with a dock and have access to the Intracoastal and the ocean easily, which is not the case in all of the towns along the Intracoastal in this area, because it's more of a natural waterway, being the Lake Worth Lagoon. And it also has just like this great park right on the Intracoastal. And there's a little island out in the middle of the Intracoastal called Munyon Island, which you can only get to by boat, and it's preserved in its natural state, and it has beaches there. So North Palm is a very well-planned town, and it has a lot of water. Actually, a ship's wheel is its logo. So that just tells you. So if you want to know more about North Palm Beach, take a look at my video where I focus specifically on North Palm Beach and go around some of the neighborhoods. So the next beach town, this would be number 4, is Juno Beach. And I think this is another kind of a secret. I mean, it's a bigger town than, say, Palm Beach Shores for sure. And it does run from the Intracoastal to the ocean, and you'd have to drive through it when you're going north toward Jupiter. But I'm going to concentrate. I mean, it does have properties that are on the Intracoastal, and along US 1, it has a couple of very large nature preserves, which was really thoughtful planning on the part of the town. So it's really preserved its beachy feel. And so the way that you know that you're almost at Juno Beach is when you're heading north on US 1 and from PGA Boulevard, there's a fork in the road, and when you take the road to the right, that becomes Ocean Drive. And right there at that point is the Seminole Golf Club, which is a very famous private golf club that's right along the ocean. Also, Juno Beach is the home of Nextra Energy, which is the parent company of Florida Power and Light. And so when you head up Ocean, the first thing you see on the right is a really great park for kids, and that's just a block from the beach, and there's a walkway to the beach right there. And as you're entering town, you come upon Pelican Lake that is right kind of in the middle of things. On the east side of there's a walkway that runs around the whole lake, and also the road system runs around the lake. And the beach is just a block and sometimes 2 blocks to the east of the lake. And then on the west side, there are some homes along that lake. And then on the west side are all these streets. There's probably around 20 streets. They're all planet and constellation names. And they run east and west, and they run up to it's like the Juno Bluffs. So there's quite a bit of incline in the roads that run east and west, which is kind of unique. And the ones that are at the top on the bluff, right near US 1, they look out over the nature preserve. So it's really beautiful. If you live there, the sunsets are amazing. And the beach is just as pretty. And I think there's probably at least 7 walkways to the beach. So if you live on one of those streets just off of Ocean, you just walk down the street and you go right on your walkway and you're right at the beach. And the ocean is just beautiful there. And so Juno runs from that fork in the road to just north of Donald Ross Road, which is the next main east-west artery. And just north of Donald Ross, there's a couple more streets that are actually like really beachy little streets with coquina shell streets. Then there is the Juno Beach Pier, which has been there since I think the 40s, but maybe about 15 years ago, they rebuilt it. So that's a really popular spot at the beach. And then there's also the Loggerhead Marine Life Center, which is just an amazing place where we have so many turtle nests all along our beaches. And, you know, a lot of times things happen to the turtles or they get rescued. And this is where they resuscitate them. And it's such a great place for kids. They just love it because they has a lot of education about turtles and sea life. And then they also actually have the turtle hospital out in the back part of the center, and the kids can really see hands-on the turtles. So that is Juno Beach. And there's not really a lot of commercial, there really maybe just a little bit of commercial business at the south end of town. There's some restaurants. And at the north end of town on the west side of US 1, pretty much it's residential with some really nice low-rise condos, maybe no more than 7 or 8 stories along the ocean side of Ocean Drive. And there's even some that are like townhouses and the single family homes on the west side of Ocean Drive. Then the next town that you come to, these are all in a row because it's just the way it is. But the next town that I'm going to talk about is Jupiter. And I think Jupiter has been discovered. But Jupiter still is and always has been. It just has that beach spirit. And it's because it has the most amazing beach, you know, and the city line is, you know, Juno, and then it becomes Jupiter. So right around a street called Marcinski off of US 1, in the 80s, there was a development built there called the Bluffs, and it has a combination of townhouses and condos and zero lot line type houses. And that whole community is just like blocks from the beach. And then the beach just runs for miles. And a lot of it is at the very beginning of it, it's on either side of the road. It's just totally preserved natural sea grapes. And you'll see these videos that I've taken. It's just so beautiful. And they even have a section of the beach that's a dog beach, which is really unusual. And a lot of people really enjoy taking their dogs there. And then as you head north on A1A, I'm just totally focusing on Jupiter has become so large. And I've done a couple of other videos about the different parts of Jupiter, but I'm staying here pretty much east of US 1, north to the inlet. When you go along A1A, after this preserved distance of both sides of the road is all natural. Then on the west side, there are, you know, one development after the other, but they're all just totally low key and really nice. Like there's some that are single family homes, and then there's kind of zero lot line type of houses. And then the condos that are there, with the exception of a couple, are all like really low profile, no more than 5 or 6 stories. It's just really well done and really thoughtful planning in terms of the government of Jupiter. So as you're going north, you can drive for miles. It's awesome. And you don't even really, there's no parking lots until you get to Carlin Park, because you can pretty much parallel park on the side of the road. And I can think so far back that when it used to just be, sandy bluff and you just parked right there in the sand. And it really hasn't changed that much since then. So as you go north, you've gone probably 3 miles of residential on the west side of A1A, and then the beach on the east side. And then you come to Carlin Park, which is this really big park. It's a lot of open space. They have a lot of events on the west side, and there's, a lot of parking there for people to come that are coming to the beach. And then they have a bluff along the beach there where they have pavilions for picnicking. And they have this really old school, it's the Civic Center for Jupiter that's on the bluff. And if you're a Jupiter resident, I think even if you're not, you can rent it for events. And it's not even air conditioned. It's this older building, but it has the most beautiful view. You can have a wedding there at the beach and then have your reception in the Civic Center there. So then as you drive further north, you're almost to the Jupiter Inlet, and you get to Indiantown Road, and then you have like another mile or so before you get to the inlet. And that's where the Maltz Jupiter Theater that used to be the Burt Reynolds Dinner Theater. And that's right by the Jupiter Resort, which is right on the east side, which is a really great place to stay. It's kind of a low profile hotel, and it has a great pool bar. And then you head just about a half a mile north and you turn off, and there's kind of a fork in the road, and you can either go onto the beach, which isn't very far, maybe like a quarter of a mile, or you make a left and you can go to Du Bois Park, they call it. And this is like the Frontier home is still there on the bluff. And it is the most beautiful place to go because you're right at the Jupiter Inlet, and there's like creeks that come off of the inlet and come in, and it's this beautiful blue water. And kids just love it because it's like a big bathtub in the creek part of it, but because it's tidal, you're getting beautiful water coming in and out, and the view is amazing. And from there you can look across the inlet to Jupiter Island. So just like with the island of Palm Beach and Singer Island, now we're at the north end of Jupiter, and you have the Jupiter Inlet, and then you have Jupiter Island is the next island north, Barrier Island. And on the south end of that island is our final town that we're going to talk about, and that's Jupiter Inlet Colony, which I loved living in Palm Beach Shores. And Jupiter Inlet Colony is a similar feel, but even more upscale because it's all residential and it's even smaller. But we're going to talk about that next. So Jupiter Inlet Colony, I didn't even talk about the Jupiter Lighthouse, which I showed from the Du Bois Park. But Jupiter Inlet Colony is just east of the Jupiter Lighthouse, and you come off of US 1 and you go over the bridge onto Jupiter Island, and you almost wouldn't even know. I don't think there's a sign there. The road turns to the north to go up north to the north end of Jupiter Island, and if you make a right and you make another right, you are in what I guess you could think of as a subdivision, but it's the most wonderfully located subdivision. It actually is a little municipality. It doesn't have any commercial businesses with the exception of a private club that's right on the end of the island on the corner of the ocean and the inlet, which is amazing. And the town itself, it just sits surrounded by some of the most beautiful water in the world. It truly does. It has a beautiful beach, and when you walk to the end of the beach and the end of the town, it's similar to Palm Beach Shores where you're at the inlet. But the Jupiter Inlet, it's less navigable, and it doesn't have commercial, large boats don't go through there because it is harder to navigate. So it's just kind of windswept and just beautiful. And so you have houses along the inlet, and then you have houses just as you come in the inlet. It's kind of a convergence of rivers, and which is different at this north end of Palm Beach County. I say the houses on the west side are on the Intracoastal, but at that point it's known as the Indian River. And then you have like maybe 3 or 4 streets running north and south. So it's a very small community. It's a very close-knit community, and it's a community of people who like to just live in a quiet place and enjoy nature. And it really is amazing. It's one of my favorite towns. And but you're just over the bridge from like Tequesta and Jupiter. Great shopping, great restaurants, but it's such a nice feeling when you make that turn off of US 1 and you're heading towards Jupiter Island, and it's like, you look over to the right and there's the lighthouse and you're almost home. So that is really on the top of my list of beach towns. And even though Palm Beach Shores is not quite the cachet of Jupiter Inlet Colony, I think they both have a similar feel in that the type of people that live there like to just live a quiet life, enjoying nature and the water around them. And it's really a fantastic place to live. Jupiter Inlet Colony. Also, a special mention for Lake Worth Beach, which you can see from this map is the next town south of West Palm. So people that live in the south end of West Palm Beach, south of Southern along the Flagler there, typically might use the Lake Worth Beach as their beach. And Lake Worth is kind of a bohemian, quirky little town with an old school downtown. And when you take that main road from downtown, you just go over the Lake Worth Bridge and you're at the casino complex, they call it, which is like, was a casino back in the day, but there's a pier there and restaurants and a pool. So that's very popular too. So I just wanted a special mention there, as the town of Palm Beach and Lake Worth are typically the beaches that people living in West Palm Beach would use. So thank you for listening. I hope you found this information useful. And I'd love to hear your comments or any questions in the comments section. And if you'd like to give me a call or text me, we can have a chat or set up a Zoom call to talk about what you're looking for and the perfect spot for you here in South Florida. And in the meantime, hit the subscribe and the bell button below so you don't miss any of our future videos, and see you on the next video.